Howdy everyone, hope things are going well. Hope you've been enjoying my videos recently. Going back to another React video today. I think the Perfect Circle video should be up by now, and fingers crossed it doesn't have any freaking copyright bots trying to tear it down, which has been a little bit of an epidemic recently with some of my recent videos. So it seems rare that I can actually get licensed music through on YouTube rather than getting blocked. But yeah, if that video is up as I sort of, like in the form I hope it is, I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed that album a fair bit. And I'll probably be doing more Perfect Circle videos because people love to see me react to Tool, and hopefully you'll love the Perfect Circle thing as well. So look forward to that, but in the meantime, we have another random album series video today. If you don't know what this is, I've been through it several times. I think I've done 5 or 6 videos on it at this point. Basically, I have the chart, which you see on your screen now, contains a bunch of essential albums from all sorts of genres, be it rock, rap, electronic, jazz, pretty much any genre under the sun. I'll be using a random number generator to pick a specific row of the chart and then a specific album from that row. And then I'll be reacting to it live, so I could be reacting to any genre of albums. So I'm essentially trying to diversify my music taste and introduce myself to some classics that, as you can see on how sort of bare that chart is, in terms of what I've listened to, I haven't heard a lot of essential albums. So that's the whole point of this series, and I'm hoping it works out for me today. Alrighty, so I have the random number generator up on my screen now, as you can see, and I have the chart that I will be drawing from here. Honestly, I've had a lot of, if you've seen my last videos, and you can probably tell, I've had a lot of metal albums picked from this chart recently, because the random number generator really likes the 32 to 35 range. So yeah, that's how I got the Vector album, the Melvins album, the Deftones album. I've had one jazz album and one bleeps, as they call it, album so far. None from the classic section, none from this sort of indie popular section at all. So honestly, who knows what I'll get? Well, I do know it'll probably be metal, but yeah, I actually don't really have any specific sort of taste in mind for today. I'll be into anything that the chart throws at me. Yeah, and I've been weirded out by some of the albums, and I've had my mind expanded more than a little. So hopefully whatever I get today does the same thing. So without further ado, let's do it. The row of albums that I will be picking from today, and as a result, the genre of albums is, drumroll, number 6. Okay, what's in row 6? Okay, so in this part of the chart, yes, finally. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, what do we have here? Okay, so wow. Okay, so we have a good few classics here. We have some weird stuff, some quite experimental stuff, but a good few classics. As you can see, I've listened to 4 albums from this chart, and I mean these are all pretty essential albums that I've listened to. Like obviously, I've heard Demon Days, Avalanches, which I actually only listened to that Avalanches album fairly recently in the grand scheme of things. Mars Volta, I love Mars Volta, and I love LCD Sound System. So yeah, that's that. But what do we have left here? So we have some like a lot of things spanning different musical genres. I think. I mean, we have, of course, the one that stands out most clearly is that Arcade Fire album. I think that's. I don't know much about Arcade Fire. I actually haven't heard any of their albums in full. I think that's the Suburbs, or is that the other one? Is that what's it called? Let me check. Funeral. That's right. Yeah, so Funeral. Indie rock classic, which I haven't heard much from. I see a Sunkel Moon album, which there's one song on that, if I get that, I'll tell you about, that I love, haven't heard the rest. A Coil album. I actually haven't heard Coil. I'm a big Throb and Gristle fan, which is the Coil adjacent band, but haven't heard Coil. And yeah, Mac DeMarco, some other classics here. So I'm quite pleased. I'm actually quite pleased with this row on the chart. I'll be getting a really classic album no matter what I get. So what do we have here? It's 1 to 8, I think. Yeah, 1 to 8. Alright, so 1 to 8. So the album, the classic album that I will be listening to today is number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. The album and band that I probably know the least about on this whole row, the Jesus Lizard Goat. I don't even, well, yeah, the Jesus Lizard Goat. I don't even know what genre this band is. I don't even know what era it's from. I've never heard of this album, or I've heard of the band, but I've never heard of the album. no idea what this band sounds like. Like normally, because if it's in the metal section, right, you know it's going to be a metal album. But because this is such a broad section, I have no idea what this album is. Yeah, I mean the cover's cool. There looks like some flames sort of things going on there. I wish I could deliver more commentary, but I can't. I have no idea who the Jesus Lizard are, or the Jesus Lizard is rather, and I have no idea what this GOAT album is. Yeah, that's all I can say. Okay, so I've located this Jesus Lizard album on Tidal. This seems like a pretty short album. This like most of these tracks are between 2 and 4 minutes long. Like most of them are really short, and there's only 9 of them. So I think this is going to be super short. Yeah, that's interesting. I have no idea what decade this comes from. I have no idea what style it belongs to. I feel like it. I mean, the cover seems very like it doesn't seem like an electronic album or something. It seems very like rockish. Like maybe psychedelic. I don't even know. Like it's hard to say anything informed about this because I honestly have no idea. Like this is the most honest I've been when I say I have no idea what this album sounds like. So the sounds that come through my speakers in the next minute are going to be completely novel to me. So I'm gonna have to do some more research about this band afterwards to see what they're about. But right now, this is about as pure a first reaction as you can possibly get. So yeah. So the first track is called "Then Comes Dudley." Weird title. weird title. 4 minutes 23 long, which is the second longest track on the album. So yeah, they're into short, concise stuff here. I want to see what this is like. Let's hear it. This is the Jesus Lizard, GOAT, track 1. Then Comes Dudley. Might have to adjust the volume in a sec. Ooh. Ooh. I like that bass line. Yeah, I'll turn that up. Ooh. This is cool. I like the production. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Okay. Might even turn this up a bit further on the here. This is cool. Like how simple it is. Whoa. The vocal is very low in the mix. With some sort of radio effect on them. Oh. Oh, I like this. This is very it's like so somehow this reminds me of like a Pixies song or something, but I mean, first of all, produced extremely differently to how Pixies were ever produced, and so secondly, with a more of like a even if this is possible, more raw and brutal edge than Pixies ever had. More simple as well. I just want to keep listening. This is cool. Very American. I can tell this is an American band. I love how those drums are produced. They're so punchy. Ooh. that bit. Oh man, I love how easygoing that beat is. Would have been so tempting to do like a cats like VO pounding thing, but this is so cool. Oh my word. I'm gonna go to Apple Music and add this to my library, just like straight away. Oh. That is getting added to my iTunes library. What's it called? There Comes Dudley? Then Comes Dudley, right. Okay, go add. That was so cool. That was so cool, and that is up there with like Disco in the Sweet Trip review or like Lateralis in the tour review. Up there with the quickest I've ever like being completely 100% sold on a band's sound, and really I hope the rest of the album sounds like that, because that is just perfect. Oh my god, all of the elements in that song were just there. Like all of the elements were there and immediate and perfect. You know, from that slow, chunky, swaggering bass groove that sort of only contained, like that core bass line only contained about 3 notes to it. Through to that drumming, which the drumming just a clear highlight of that track, like spot on. I love that sort of slow, plodding open hi-hat and kick drum thing that it had going on. The pattern was fantastic. I love, because it would be so tempting so this sounds like 90s indie rock, possibly, maybe a bit sooner than that. But it nevertheless in that sort of style, that 90s guitar rock, you know, the same scene as like Pixies and like Fugazi and the Replacements, sort of bands like that. It would have been so tempting to give it like a more of a post-hardcore sound with the drumming and make it super energetic and fast, but that was just like cool and chill and groovy and just amazing. Like it went along, it plodded along in the best possible way, in the best possible sense of that word. Also the drum production was nice, because one of my biggest problems with Pixies is that their production is a bit like, everything just sounds thin in a lot of those songs. Like nothing has much of a low end to it or a kick to it, but this has some excellent low end and kick to it, especially for the indie rock scene. Just the low end punch and the sharp, crisp snare drums in that recording are fantastic. Yeah, I want to know the producer. It almost sounds like it sounds like a that's how like Rick Rubin or like a Steve Albini or sort of any number of amazing producers sort of produce drums like that, just making them crisp, and it's just gorgeous. So yeah, I'd be interested to see after this who produced this album, because they did a really good job on the drums, and that sort of like the way that was produced made it so much more engaging for me. I like how it also sort of bucked the trend by putting those vocals like way in the back of the mix, way back in the mix, and even when you could hear them, they were obscured by this strange sort of radio effect. But from what I could hear, I liked the vocalist. He didn't have an annoying voice, which a lot of indie rock musicians do have annoying voices, unfortunately. He had a voice that suited the music quite well, like quite sort of low end heavy in tone and timbre. And yeah, but I sort of like how the instruments were left to dominate that track, right? Like I love how they gave the track the sort of propulsive swaggering, groovy edge that it needed. That was really just badass from start to finish. Even those guitars were really cool. Like that one section in like the refrain where it was like, I think that was a guitar. It sounded like one. Yeah, that was just cool. Just a really cool track. That bass line, like from the very beginning, just endeared itself to me straight away. Like straight away endeared itself to me. And honestly, the track could do no wrong after that point. And it's just, I'm glad that it like wrote out that idea to the end and did it in the most amazing way. Wow, what a great way to start off the album. Oh man, that first track has established so much goodwill with me. Everything I want from like 80s, 90s, early 2000s indie rock. I hope the second track, which is only 2 minutes long and is called Mouth Breather, doesn't sabotage any of that for me. Because that's like, that first track was like a Waiting Room by Fugazi or something, in that it's so good, but I'm worried that the rest of the album won't live up to the opener track. So this is Mouth Breather, 2 minutes 17. Please be good, please be good, please be good, please be good. I'm gonna be let down, I can feel it. Whoa! Ah! Oh, great guitar riff. Oh. I'm adding this to my iTunes library. Oh, badass. I did beat forward too. Oh my god. Oh, key change. Great vocals too. It's rare that I'm into vocals on an album on first listen, but... Oh my god. This sort of depresses me because I feel like I'm just being set up for some big fall. Like I feel like I'm going to hate the last half of the album because, oh my god, those first two tracks are of a quality that is just insane. Those first two tracks are just mind-blowing. Wow. That was half the length of Then Comes Dudley, but almost, possibly even managed to exceed it in quality and in space and in everything it did. I'm struggling for words right now. Okay, compose, Sam. Breathe, breathe. That guitar riff that just made up that entire track is genuinely one of the just most badass and cool indie rock guitar riffs I've ever heard. Like, and that's a big claim. But the da-na-na-na is just so cool, and the way it's played with those huge chunky like I think they sound like power chords to me. Those just huge chunky chords is just fantastic, and I love how simple that track was kept. I like how it was only like like 4 elements. Like I'm normally a sucker for synths and stuff in music, right? Like I'm normally a absolute sucker for laying out the mix with keyboards and pads and drum machines and all sorts of things. But when a band managed to do just pure, to the point indie rock that well, and managed to come with a guitar riff like that good, a chordal guitar riff too, which is even harder, I have no choice but to just like acknowledge how incredible that is. So one of the best guitar riffs I think I've ever heard, exceeding and like some of Tool's best, and honestly making a good comparison against some of them. And oh my god, the drumming too. Like the drumming is just, but these 2 tracks have been, I love how sparse and open hi-hat heavy it's kept. I love how it's produced, courtesy of whoever that producer is. I love how much body the drum kit's given without being like too overpowering or harsh in the mix. I just love everything about that track. I love every single thing about that track. I didn't really pick out what the bass was doing, but I'm sure that was doing something amazing too. And the vocalist was just cool. Like it was this sort of very unconventional vocalist in that, like, his vocals were completely melody free. Like he wasn't leading the melody whatsoever. But he was just instead just like doing this sort of rabid, half-crazed ramble over the proceedings, which just, I think, added to like the unhinged madness and insanity of that track in the most perfect way possible. I think that track was just gold, start to finish. It was just totally gilded. It did everything it could have possibly done right, correct. It did all of the things it could have done right. And that doesn't even need time to grow on me. Like, some of my favourite songs take ages to grow on me, but that track and the track before it, they just like instant hits in my mind. That was just brilliant. Oh my god, how have I not discovered this band sooner? Okay, so I'm prepared. I probably won't like track 3 as much. It's called Nub. Let's hear it. I'm nervous. Track 3. I'll probably like it, but I won't like be obsessed with it. Great chord change. Oh, the drums with the tambourine. I'm adding this to my library as well. You ever have one of those like love at first sight moments with a band where the first you just hear them straight away and you don't expect it, and you just like immediately know that like this is the band, like this is something special and just something that like scratches an itch you didn't even know exist. That is my experience so far with Jesus Lizard. My God. So that was my least favourite of the tracks so far, which means that it was like one of the best rock tracks I've ever heard. The just energy, the raw energy that track carried. I mean, between that like incredible bluesy floor tom heavy groove with that tambourine on every beat, which just added this lovely pep and punch to the pattern. Oh my God. So between that, which is fantastic, then that amazing gnarly guitar work where it was just sliding up and down the neck like that. I think it sounded like a slide guitar. I think it was actually a slide guitar. So that incredible slide guitar work, and then just the half like rabid vocalist that sort of like, it doesn't matter if he actually has a good singing voice, because the way he just sings, well not sings, like shouts, like screams the most incredibly cathartic lyrics and melody is just second to none. Like, it honestly makes him one of the best vocalists in indie rock that I've heard so far. Oh my God. And just like the way they like, because okay, here's the thing, like it's scratching a certain itch within me, because I admittedly do like when songs and albums, you know, stick to one chord for extended periods of time. I love that as a motif. I think repetition of like a vamp on one chord is a fantastic thing to do, and it's done a lot on this album. But having said that, the way the band sort of manages like that chord change, and the chord change that did happen about halfway through, was just brilliant. Like, it was brilliant. It was the perfect chord to go to. It wasn't a temporary thing. It, you know, spent the perfect amount of time on that and then just went back to the original sound. Like chord changes, as you've seen, if you've seen my Deftones review and my Perfect Circle review, can be very hit or miss for me, but that was just hit after hit after hit. Wow. What a band so far. Which just, I'm so worried that they're going to let me down. Like, I'm so worried that, okay, so we might have these three tracks, the first three tracks, it might be the classic thing of the first three tracks of an album being good and it's like front load and then the rest isn't that good. So let's see if that's the case. I really hope it's not the case. I really hope this album stays in the mode it's been staying in pretty consistently, because like even I spent half that track like trying to find a cowbell and just hitting a cowbell waywardly, and it still managed to impress its every single note in my soul. Okay, so track 4. Oh man, it's not going to be as good. I hate, as I said, I hate when albums are these good, because I feel like I'm going to be let down. Track 4 is called Seasick. It's a bit longer, 3 minutes 11. Oh my god. He's like a preacher, or like an evangelist giving a sermon.
Up in the flood.
Whoa. Oh, good guitar line. Yeah. Wow. I mean, although that didn't have the same sort of effortless catchiness of the first 3 tracks, that was like just an inspired, perfect slice of weirdness and unconventional rock songwriting, the likes of which you honestly don't hear that often in indie rock, and especially like indie rock that follows the guitar drum bass formula like this one does. That was so cool. I love how it was in 3/4, but it wasn't like lilting. It was still, because 3/4 and 6/8 feels can often be a bit like, they can sort of wash over you. They're often more designed for, you know, like slower tracks, more atmospheric tracks. So I like how that did a 3/4 without falling into any of those tropes, any of those idioms. I love that the vocalist had a great performance on this. The vocalist is just fantastic. I'm just in love with what he's doing, like with his voice. Like, I love how much power his voice has. I love how he's not just trying at all to sing melodies or adopt any sort of, you know, like melodic sensibility to his voice. That track reminded me of, there's a couple tracks that remind me of, I think it might just be because of the 3/4 thing. Reminded me of Lizzie on Houdini by the Melvins. Also reminded me of, what song on Rid of Me by PJ Harvey? You know the song I'm talking about, like it's in 3/4 and it sort of has that loud, quiet dynamic going on. Remind me of those tracks, but this did just something completely unique to itself. I love the guitar work in that you know, guitar, that da-da-da-da-da-da riff. It wasn't mind-blowing, but it was really, really good. Like, really, really good. And then I love that little sort of soloing line it had towards the end. That was like this drunken slave ship blues of a song that just like maintained the quality of the album perfectly. And although it's not like, again, instantly catchy or probably instantly re-listenable in a way that a lot of the first 3 tracks have been, it's maintained the quality of the album perfectly. And this album so far doesn't have a weak track. In fact, it doesn't even have like just a decently alright track or a decently good track. It's had just 4 hits. How is that possible? This is that rare thing where I just want to keep listening. Like, I don't want to stop to talk. I just want to keep listening. Let's just move on to the next track called Monkey Trick. No commentary. I just want to hear it. It's a long one, 4 minutes. Legitimately one of the most impressive drummers I've ever heard, because he just knows what's perfect for the songs. Oh, great guitar line too. I love how that like that bar just shifts to a major chord for like a bar. Yeah, I love it first listen. This is just really, very truly love it first listen. That just continued the tradition of the last few tracks. Just everything about it, like the amazing drumming, the, you know, like crazed vocals, which probably weren't, I think this is probably where they were at their least effective on this track, but it's fine. The amazing guitar work and like dissonance that works. Like I think the last two albums, the Perfect Circle album and the Deftones album that I've listened to, they're sort of an exercise in, for me, in dissonance that doesn't really work that well. But this isn't, like that one guitar, like da-da-da-na-na-na, sort of like going down the neck a bit. Like that is a perfect example of dissonance that just works for me. Like whatever that was, that just had the absolute desired effect and managed to be weird and off-putting and unnerving while still being like undeniably just really enjoyable to listen to. And I think you can have both things at the same time. I think you can have unnerving things that are actually enjoyable to listen to and really cathartic. And like just everything about this band is an exercise in catharsis done perfectly, done absolutely perfectly. and with absolutely nothing that I would change. Also, the bass line, like, man, my favourite thing is bassists who have restraint, that are just okay to play the same thing over and over with very few changes, you know, across the length of a track. Like, bassists, and that's the same thing, I think drummers, because I'm a drummer, drummers and bassists, who are the core, you know, members of any band that sort of lock it down, the best quality they can have is to have absolutely no ego and just be okay to keep things as simple as that they possibly can be. Like, as simple as they possibly can be. That was pretty much as simple as it possibly could be. I mean, that was just a super, you know, punchy, like, bass line that the bassist just whacked through. And then those ultra tight sounding drums were just fantastic. And again, for the millionth time, the way they're produced is the most amazing full-bodied sound I think I've heard on, well, one of the best productions I've ever heard on an indie rock record. So there's something to be, like, really commended on that. Yeah, wow. I'm amazed I haven't even, like, heard of this album, and I haven't even heard a note of this band. I didn't even know what they sounded like, and it's like this band has just found me instead of the other way around, because it's just catering to what I like perfectly. Oh man, okay. So we're going to move on to track 6, second half of the album. We haven't had a dub track so far. I don't want it to start now. Please don't be front-loaded, album, please. Track 6, Karpis. 3 minutes 10 long, so even if it is weak, at least it's done quickly. Let's hear it. Bit more abstract. Oh, yes. Oh! It's like a harmonic minor or something. Ah, yes. Oh, great drum pattern change. Oh, yes. This album really can just do no wrong. It can do no wrong. Oh yes, I love how he changed that drum pattern. I love these bits. Okay, this album, honestly, the remaining tracks could just be the frontman saying the words "piss baby" over and over into the microphone for 10 minutes, and I would still like trust my life with this album. Yeah, another hit. No duds so far. That was different. That was different than the other tracks. That was more Pixies-like. Almost reminded me of a few tracks off of their first EP, Come On Pilgrim. Like, remind me of Vamos and a few other tracks like that, but had this sort of delightful spin of its own on it. This amazing spin with this sort of unconventional modal, possibly harmonic minor, like idiom that the whole track was based around. You know, coupled with those vocals, this is the most melodic he's ever sounded. Not that it was particularly melodic, but the most sort of direct and least ambiguous the guy's ever sounded on a track so far on this album. And like, yeah, just great. The drum work too, like I like how that first verse was really like slow and spacey, which is what I've expected to hear from him in terms of just how the drummer sort of places his notes and figures out his patterns. And then the second verse, it completely changes things up by just having a straight 4 on the floor kick drum, cat, just to like give the track the perfect jolt of energy that it needed. And then those choruses are just fantastic, super cathartic. That little post-chorus section with the like da-da-ba-ba-da-ba-da sort of sound, amazing. Yeah. Like not as like obviously simple or catchy as the first 3 tracks were, but this album is just maintaining an excellent level of quality throughout the whole thing. And there's been no element in this album so far that has like hit me like, oh, I'm not sure if that's that good, you know? There's been absolutely no element of this album so far that has had that effect on me. This is just hit after hit after hit, and it's literally doing no wrong for me at this point. My God, that was just another like amazing track on the sort of add to the pile of other really, really great tracks. This album was really made. It's like a focus group just came in and made this album for my ears. Like, what would SMAM like in an album? Well, we'd like the drums to sound really punchy, and he'd love these really simple, awesome guitar riffs, and there's sort of unconventional, like scratchy vocals. It's literally focus group designed to be one of my favourite albums. This is just sublime. Okay, so we're moving on to the last 2 tracks. I love how short this album is too, can I say? I love short albums. I love albums that don't overstay their welcome, and I love tracks that don't overstay their welcome. And these are all just short, concise, and punchy songs that don't waste a second of their runtime. I really appreciate that. So, track 7, Southmouth, you know, it fits in that mold. It's 3 minutes and 3 seconds long. I'm waiting for the dud. Maybe this could be the dud. I'm almost rooting for there to be a dud at this point because I refuse to believe an album can be this good. Southmouth. Oh! Adding this to my very, adding this to my very. Oh my God. Oh. It's doing the bluesy thing. It's doing the da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. It's doing the bluesy thing just when I think this album can't get any better. I love the bluesy thing. I love how his vocals changed. cheek, I love it. Just when I go on a whole spiel about how this album seems focus group, like designed to be an album I love, it does like one of my favourite motifs in all of music, which is sort of that bluesy single chord like da-na-man-a-man-a-man-a-man-a-man-a-man, or like da-na-na-na-na-na sort of thing. Oh my god, just the way like that song, it could have just been like Pulse Demon by Merzbow for it could have been posted by Merzbow for pretty much every other section in that song, from that really cool quiet section that sort of had this lovely sludgy treacly ooze to it, to the choruses, which were a little bit, you know, more like janky and cool, to those sort of stops in the second half of the song that were also fantastic. Like you could have just replaced that with all of like a harsh noise track, and it still would have been worth it for just those amazing bits where the guitar was doing the da-na-na-na-na-na sort of thing. And with that incredible drum work, like this drummer is, honestly, he may not be the most technical drummer, but he just gets the feel of every track. Like he just understands instinctively what every single track needs, in my mind. And he did that just perfectly on here. He nailed it. He nailed it with sort of the, like, I would have thought to maybe do it like track 3 did, like a tom sort of, but he made the ingenious decision to make it a very like crash cymbal and snare heavy groove, and that just fit it so well. It made it such like a merry-go-round of a track, not merry-go-round, like that was the most lame example I've ever used, like a roller coaster of a track that just took you like by the scruff of your neck and just threw you around the room. And I almost wish I was like standing up doing this. Maybe that might be an addition later. I might work once I actually get a proper camera, I might do that, but I almost wish I was like standing up for some of these albums and some of these songs, so I could like fully dance along to these things. Instead, I'm done doing whatever my stupid white body tells my stupid white arms to do with the like jerky janky sort of movements. But yeah, sublime on the level of the, no, I'm not saying like the middle section from 4 to 6 was weak, because it wasn't. They were all strong tracks, but that track 7 like just like lifted the whole album up to like the 10 out of 10 status that the first 3 tracks were at, when maybe the others were like an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Go easy on me, album. It's just, it's stimulating all my pleasure centers at once. This is just unheard of for first listen, honestly. Yeah, so Southmouth, even if like it's possible that was sort of a takeoff of like bluegrassy, bluesy, sort of twangy, like sort of songs. I mean, it's very possible, but like even if it is, I don't care. I'm just going to take that at straight up face value, and at face value, that is honestly one of the coolest tracks I've heard in a while. Well, maybe at least one of the coolest tracks I've heard since track 3. I think bands like Cage the Elephant and like, oh god, I'm gonna speak its name, I'm gonna invoke its name, but like Jet or even like Wolfmother owe themselves so much to these guys. I think Cage the Elephant is the first thing. Cage the Elephant's first album seems so indebted to this style. I mean, with the sort of bluesy twang on everything, to that very simple bass, guitar, drums and vocal lineup that it's going for, to even the way the vocalist sings, his different inflections, Like, they owe their whole career. And I'm a Cage the Elephant fan. Like, I actually think Cage the Elephant has their place. I think they're a really good band. But, man, they owe their whole career to these guys. Like, they owe their whole career to this band with pretty much everything they do, even down to the way it sounds and the way it's produced. It's such a blueprint. Like, a track like that, I guess, isn't doing anything new necessarily. Like, that was just a blues. That was just a straight ahead garage rock blues. But, you know, it sort of packaged all of those elements in a way that sounded to me completely novel and yeah, obviously such an influence on other bands. And again, I want to say this again, that it just blows my mind that these guys are more famous because I haven't heard of them, first of all. And second of all, like, these guys, well, yeah, these guys should be like on the level of a Pixies or on the level of like Smashing Pumpkins or something. I guess they're too weird for that, but they should be up there. What was I saying? I completely forgot my old train of thought. This album is flustering me. It's just amazing. It's just all amazing. Yeah, okay, track 8 is called Lady Shoes. This is a real short one, 2 minutes 42. I'm waiting for this album to screw up, and this could be the place, so might as well just hold a premature funeral for the album now. This is track 8, Lady Shoes. Okay, no melodrama in this review. No melodrama. I've been really melodramatic in the last few. Okay, no more melodrama. So that was just amazing again. That was just fucking sublime again. Like, again, from the very first second, like, when that sort of ultra-fast tom stuff hit, which, by the way, Arctic Monkeys copied the song Brian Storm off that drum beat. I'm just putting that out there. So, yeah, Arctic Monkeys fans, I know you're watching. But, yeah, from the moment that drum beat hit with that, like, ultra-fast guitar sort of cross-picking, Like that track was more, but the last track was a sort of homage to, you know, it sounded like some bluegrass, a homage to like rockabilly. This was a homage to like 60s like hardcore garage rock and blues rock and like proto punk even. I just loved how much tension and, you know, pure visceral distilled energy those tom-filled sections built up between the vocals and the way that, of course, the drums sounded, which are, again, I haven't said this before, but they're produced excellently. Don't you know? The drums have an amazing production on this album, yeah. Between, like, all that, and then just the way it explodes into that chorus, which is, like, it has weird chord movement, but I honestly don't mind because it's worth it for how that progressed there. And then even that slower section, fantastic, sublime. And I love how that just exploded back into the cool tom work and the crazy guitar garage rock like sections. Oh man, wow! It's I've said this before, but it's always tougher as a music reviewer to talk about stuff that you really like. It's always easier to talk about what things don't work on a track, because I think they're easy to point out, because you can point out like what the elements are that don't work and why they don't work in your opinion. But it's harder to talk about like albums that just blow your mind consistently, because like they blow your mind in ways often that you don't really perceive. And I don't know why this works more than like any other band I've heard. I think it's harder to talk about because it just scratches some itch in my brain that I'm going to need to like have more listens, I think, to elucidate like exactly what that is. But I think if I had to guess, it's just the way this album like sounds so raw and well produced at the same time, while also blending in these elements of blues and, you know, like hard rock from the 70s and 80s I hear, and a lot of the guitar work, and, you know, a lot of their contemporaries, which I've mentioned several times in this review, particularly in the vocals. And they just blend all of this stuff together to make an absolute doozy of an album. Just to make a doozy. I actually haven't finished the album yet, so I don't know why I'm delivering this commentary now, but this album has just been such a doozy so far, and a track like that just shows exactly why it's the case. Wow. Just special. A really special album. Wow. So track 9. Oh man. Track 9 is called Rodeo and Juliet, and is the longest track on the album so far. So I hope this doesn't ruin it, because a lot of this album's strength so far has been its brevity, and I don't want this to ruin it. But honestly, no matter what, this is going to be like a 9 out of 10 album, and like close to a 10 out of 10 on re-listens. So I want to hear it. Track 9, Rodeo and Juliet, nice play. Who knows, maybe we might do the twangy country thing again. Okay, time to hit it. Let's close Goat out. This is track 9, Rodeo and Juliet. Oh! Spacey. Spacey this is. I love that guitar line. Math Rockers. Ladies and gentlemen, what you have just watched is me fall in love with an album in real time. Like, I'll be the first to admit that I think that last song, on first listen at least, wasn't as good than the other tracks. I mean, again, it was still good. Like, I want to say it was actually still very good. Like, when I say not as good, I still mean it was like 7 out of 10, which is honestly better than some other albums have. I mean, I'm being dead serious. Some decent albums have. I mean, I liked the and I liked what the first like minute or so did with that really atmospheric guitar work, but some of the stuff in between wasn't as strong. But who cares? Like, who gives a shit? That'll probably grow on me on later listens. Who cares if it didn't hit me at first? Jesus Lizard, GOAT. One of the best rock albums I've ever heard. It's as simple as that. One of the, like, a contender for maybe top 10 best produced album I've ever heard. And certainly better produced than, like, other sort of giants in the scene like Pixies or Fugazi. I mean, just the way the drums were produced and the way the guitars were produced and the way the vocals were placed in the mix, and it was the way it was all EQ'd and all, like, the harshness was taken out to give this album that was simultaneously raw and polished and lovely. I thought literally one of the best produced rock albums ever. The songwriting, the riffing, the vocals, the drumming, as I've been through a million times, all just immense and incredible in their own little ways. The way the album was more or less, like, extremely internally consistent along the length of its 30-minute track time. The way the album was short, and it kept things concise, and it realised that brevity is often the secret to a lot of the most successful albums out there. The way the album, like, made different tracks that sort of all fit under this sort of alternative rock, noise rock banner, that all did, like, very different things to one another. Very, very different things. The way it played with 3/4 in a way that wasn't lilting, but was actually, like, abrasive in the most enjoyable possible way. The way it just had this swagger and grit and confidence about it is just second to freaking none. Second to freaking none. This was, honestly, what a blast to listen to. I'm pretty comfortable in calling this I think my favourite album of all the albums I've listened to in this YouTube channel so far. I actually think when you get to albums this good, like when you start talking about albums this good, it's often easier to pick out the clear highlights. Because I found like one of my favourite albums, actually, that's not a good example. I'll use, what's a good example? Yeah, like Mezzanine by Massive Attack, which is probably top 3 album of all time for me. Like, even though it's a 10 out of 10 album for me, I still think, like, it's easy for me to tell exactly which tracks I think are the best. And I think it's very much the case here. In fact, I want to give a shout out to 5 tracks in particular. Then comes Dudley, Mouth Breather, Nub, South Mouth, and Lady Shoes. That is, those 5, some of the best, like, whatever genre you call it. I don't even know what genre would you call this album? Like, what genre would you call this album? It's too weird to be alternative rock. I guess noise rock is about as close to come, but I mean, I wouldn't call it, like, noisy as such. Maybe, like, if I'm using Fugazi terms, maybe, like, post-hardcore? But post-hardcore is more, like, sort of angular than this. This is more sort of chunky. I don't know, it's a really unclassifiable album. I haven't been able to get in my mind exactly what genre this album sounds like, exactly what band this band sounds like. It's just so of its own. Like, this is just so uniquely Jesus Lizard. Like, I haven't heard a band do most of these things. It's so unique to them. It's insane. So, yeah. But anyway, as I was saying, those 5 tracks, like, some of the best of whatever genre they are, some of the best. And honestly, I'm not even going to try and pick a top 3 among those. If I can do a top 5, it's those 5 in any order. And then you have the measly 7 out of 10s and 8 out of 10s that are Nub, Seasick, Monkey Trick, Rodeo and Juliet, all of which, by the way, I still loved. I'm honestly considering, I don't give 10 out of 10s on, there's only one album where I've given a 10 out of 10 on first listen, but this is the closest I think I've ever gotten to giving 10 out of 10 on the first listen. This is just everything I could possibly want on an album. It's like focus group, tested, like made by design, like intelligently designed, a work of God, like a musical work of God to make something so perfect for me. I just, if you can't tell, I'm raving a bit about this album because that was just, like, I love music. If you couldn't tell, I love music and I've experienced some great albums so far on this chart. But I think this eclipses all of them. Like, this eclipses even that Venetian Snares album, even that Duke Ellington album. That Duke Ellington album is stiff competition, but I'd say it eclipses it. I'd really say it eclipses it. Yeah. Goat by Jesus. I almost called them Jesus and Mary Chain. Isn't that fun? They're 2 like noise rock bands that both have, that start with the Jesus. Oh well. Goat by the Jesus Lizard. Like 9.8 out of 10. In the future, I'll probably catch up with you. I'll probably check in with you. Could be a 10 out of 10. Oh man. So I might as well just stop this channel now because it's going to be hard for anything to beat that, but I'm going to keep going. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be honest, I came in to today and I came into that album just when I saw it was picked for me. I was like, what is this? Like, I thought it'd sort of be an album that I wouldn't get into that much, but it just exceeded my expectations in every way possible, and I could not be more grateful. So thank you for giving me an excuse to listen to some of these albums, which I wouldn't really have an excuse to listen to otherwise. So thank you for watching so much. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hoping this doesn't get copyright striked. And yeah, hit the like button, subscribe if you like my videos. Every little subscribe and like and comment, I'll read all your comments, I'll like all your comments. Every little thing means the most to me. It means so much. So please do all that. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. And keep listening to Jesus Lizard. See you guys.